What's up, everybody? Astrocastrophe here with two eerily similar games, the Callisto Protocol and Dead Space Remake. This is something I'm very much looking forward to, the Callisto Protocol that is, which comes out next month, so that's December 2nd. I'm eagerly anticipating this game. I wasn't entirely interested in it at first. It wasn't until I started hearing a little bit more about it. I didn't know that Strike and Distance had the same people who had worked on the Dead Space games. So I wasn't aware that this was pretty much what many consider to be a spiritual successor to Dead Space. So with that in mind, I've gained a little more interest in it. And two, I think my interest has sort of peaked with the Dead Space series. I'm not really interested in anything beyond the first game. So the remake is absolutely something I want, but my interest sort of wanes after that. The Callisto Protocol, however, seems like a completely different game, especially in grounds of combat. As you can see, it's very melee driven at certain points. And then in the other areas, you're using your guns and any sort of ranged weapons. So from I know that you're going to be doing a combination of both, which sounds awesome. If they could maybe kind of like incorporate that a little bit more often in games like Resident Evil, that's something I would look forward to, because in Dead Space, I think you just pretty much pistol whip them and then stomp them when they're on the ground. But the enemies are a lot more fleshed out too. They, from what I understand, were based off of the vampires in 30 Days of Night and maybe the vampires in I Am Legend. And then they kind of added their own twist on them. As you can see, they got like all these tumors and like this sort of fleshy, gelatinous skin that's oozing off them and stuff like that. And the tentacles in this game are supposedly going to be like the weak point or something to these things. So I'm very looking forward to it. Like I said, I like the enemy design much more so than in Dead Space. I mean, I like the enemies in Dead Space. They're scary. But like I said, these seem a little more fleshed out. So the story revolves around you being this man on a prison named Jacob, and there's this alien outbreak that's going on, and presumably it's a virus, and these are people infected with the virus. And from what I've read on the internet, the whole thing is like being engineered by the warden, so it's like an inside job, and like we're going to see what happens with this game. I mean, it's a very interesting concept. You're on Callisto, and that's one of Jupiter's moons, and right here is a really good, beautiful shot of Jupiter. Like, yeah, like that's another thing I love about this game is like each room, the environments, they always look different from the next one to the next. Whereas in Dead Space, I kind of feel like each corridor sort of looks the same. Not that it's a boring setting, but there's just so much character in each room. And right here too, he's about to use the grip, which is also going to play a very predominant role in the game. As you can see, you can whip them into walls and impale them and shit like that. There's a lot that you can do with it, evidently. And it's going to play a very important part in the game. As far as I understand, you're going to be able to upgrade it with in-game currency that you collect from the bad guys, or you find it looting around in freighters or something like that. So it's going to be very similar to Dead Space. The only difference is like the combat and the storyline. This is not like a direct sequel to Dead Space. I don't think they're in the same universe. I wouldn't want them to be in the same universe. I would like this to be pretty much a game of its own, because I love Dead Space. I really wouldn't want to try to change it or make it something that it's not. It just seems like the Callisto Protocol is just something that they wanted to take in their own direction. That the synthesis behind it was Dead Space, I'm going to say, but it's not Dead Space. So it looks pretty good. These zombies were based off, I think, like Asian horror films and some of these Western movies too. You know, very brutal stuff going on here. It's going to be a very gory game. They've been very clear on that. It's going to have the same sort of rip and tear system that Dead Space has, where you're deliberately supposed to dismember them and do disgusting things to them. Video games got to be very violent. The game has been, as far as I know, it's been in sort of a development hell ever since COVID hit. I think there were only like 60 employees, and now they're up to 200, and they have offices overseas. So it's doing pretty good. They've put a lot of work into this. Apparently, there's going to be a lot of stealth in this game too, but the stealth is going to be more on the end of the monsters. Like, they're going to be following you around through the ventilation systems and sort of like spying on you and shit and waiting for the right moment to pop out and attack. And that shit's awesome. They regenerate, and they're fucking doing all sorts of crazy shit. You get to hurl them into the big meat grinder thing. It's going to be a very exciting game, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And to be perfectly honest, I don't even know if the Dead Space remake's going to be able to hold up to it. Dead Space seems like very much a graphical improvement, probably improvement in combat and just overall quality, but I don't know. Callisto Protocol looks like it's shaping up to be an amazing fucking game, and I think nobody can wait for it. It drops next month. I'm sure it's just people are going to buy it. It's going to sell like hotcakes. I'm very, very excited for it, as I'm sure everybody else is. This looks fucking great. Dead Space, the remake, well, it'll be coming out soon enough, and I think this has been a very good year for survival horror games. This is almost like the golden years, like we had back in like the PS2 era. We had a surge of survival horror games, not a whole bunch, but more than we did in most years. But you know, we might be entering that second era for the year of survival horror games. I very, very much hope so. It'd be very good to get more survival horror games. Very much. All right, so that's it for now. This is Astrocastrophe. I will see you next time. Callisto Protocol drops next month, December 2nd. Make sure you go out there and get yourself a copy. I know I will.